All right. Thank you to everyone who's here joining us today. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their busy day to join us. Today we have Adrianos. He is a local attorney here in the city of Burbank. He's partnering with our agency Home Again LA today to provide a brief presentation on how you can avoid financial surprises and what you need to know about your auto insurance. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Adrianos.
All right. So thanks, Lisa. Good evening to everybody. First, I want to say just I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening after work or after taking care of your loved ones to spend some time with me. Not everybody wants to spend time with a lawyer. So I appreciate you taking the time and listening to what I have to say. This is a topic that may not be the most interesting topic, but it's something that if you hopefully take away a few things from what I say today, it could really save you a lot of money in the future. And you can be that friend that tells your other friends, tips on insurance because you're going to know a lot after this 20 minutes or so that I'm going to spend explaining how auto insurance works. So, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
All right, good. So, um, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and jump in. You don't have to wait until the end. I love answering questions. So, interrupt me, it's fine. Tell me who you are. So, just first name is fine. And I'll go ahead and answer the question. But basically, what we're going to talk about today is avoiding financial surprises. Usually, most people don't like surprises, especially bad ones. And if you don't get the right insurance, it could definitely hurt you in a lot of different ways. Some of them obvious and some of them not very obvious, and that's what I want to talk about. But first of all, who am I and, why should you listen to me? So basically, I'm a personal injury lawyer. So I represent people who get injured in accidents, typically auto accident cases. I was born and raised in LA. I have a little bit of a different background. When I was 3 days old, my mother couldn't care for me, so I was going to go in the foster care system. But amazingly, a family who lived in Burbank decided to adopt me, saved my life, changed my life. And I think because of that, I wanted to do things that to help other people to have the same advantages and same opportunities that I was able to have because I was taken out of a bad situation and put into a great situation. And so how did I get into personal injury law? So, as soon as I graduated from law school, I started my own practice. I'm a little too stubborn. My dad started his own business. He was from a different country, from Argentina. My mom was from Brazil. So basically, it means I was yelled at in three languages as a kid. Probably deserved it. But because we had that immigrant work ethic, I started my own business, didn't know what I wanted to do until I met an older gentleman. And one day he says to me, look, I'm going to teach you about law. Been doing law for 50 years. And he basically said, we're going to work on an auto accident case. I said, George, I don't know how to do auto accident cases. No worries. I'll do it myself. And just hold my bag during trial. It'd be fine. So my first case goes to trial, but George is getting a little bit too old. He's 75 years old. And the very long story short is suddenly he says, you do the trial. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm brand new. I don't have gray hair at the time. I'm young. And at the end of the trial, after making me do everything, we got an amazing result for the client and it ended up going well. And so my very first auto accident case went to trial, which I can't think of another lawyer that's happened to. And it was a great result. And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I have a knack for this. Maybe I can do this and help people. And that's what I've been doing now for 19 years. And so I was born and raised in Burbank, which is why I wanted to partner with Home Again LA because they're located here in Burbank. I wanted to get involved. I've worked with them for a while now, doing some pro bono services. So I'm really excited about this. Um, and so that's a little bit of background on me. I speak Spanish and Portuguese, but I'll be speaking in English tonight for most of you. That's probably a good thing. So, so my office is located in Burbank. That's my background. This is what I do all day long is deal with insurance companies. So, why is insurance important, right? We all have to have auto insurance. It's the law in California. And everybody has to have auto insurance. Well, you need to understand insurance because car accidents can lead to devastating and unexpected financial stress. Okay. We've all heard of situations where people don't have insurance, can't get their car fixed. They have other kinds of problems, lots of medical bills, things like that. We don't want you in that situation. Okay. And insurance helps protect you from large out-of-pocket costs like the car, like the medicals. And it's so important to understand the coverage that you have so you can plan smarter and avoid these kind of surprises that I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about the different kinds because I think a lot of people mention certain words, but we don't really understand what it means, right? So if any of you have been to in a car accident, you know, especially in LA, for most people, their car is so important, right? Unfortunately, LA doesn't have the best public transportation, so having wheels is going to be important, right? If you can. So one of the first types of damages that I think you need to understand is property damage. Now, it seems really simple, right? But when insurance companies say property damage, they call it PD, if you want to sound fancy. Um, it covers damage that you caused to someone else's vehicle or property, okay? Uh, and in California, the law has changed. It used to be, as of 2024, that the minimum insurance for property damage was $5,000. But I don't know about you, it's pretty hard to buy a car for 5,000 bucks. Almost impossible. When I was a kid, you could do it. Now you can't. So they did thankfully change the law, which now made the minimum property damage is 15,000. Now, I know that budgets are tight for a lot of people, but I'm going to explain some things here in this talk and suggest that you try to do a little bit more insurance because it's going to help you down the line. So I recommend that you have at least $25,000 or more of property damage coverage. This is important because, again, not many cars are only $15,000. So if you injure or damage someone else's car and they have a $40,000 car, and your insurance company only offers 15,000 because that's all you have, the insurance company is not required to pay more. There may be somebody like me, a lawyer, who's going to say, you know what, you owe the rest. And that can really hurt someone financially, right? So I recommend 25,000 if you can swing it. Okay. So this basically helps avoid paying out of pocket after an accident. So that's property damage. That covers the damage that you do to someone else's car in an accident. Okay. So the next one I want to talk about is also pretty important. It's called medical payments. Again, if you want to sound like a pro, you say MedPay. And it's optional in California. You're not required to have it. And basically, what it does is, like it says here on the slide, it pays for your necessary medical expenses for you and your passengers. So it's not just you, it's also your passengers, which is key. It applies no matter who caused the accident, again, which is good because it's not about who's at fault. You get it no matter what. And it's helpful, especially if you don't have health insurance or have a high deductible. Now, for people who are undocumented, this can be very important, right? Because there's concerns about whether you can actually go to the ER, right? And it's kind of complicated. There's always, I get a lot of calls from clients because I deal with a lot of Hispanic clients, given my background, and they're pretty worried about it. And I say, look, just get MedPay. So you have some MedPay just in case you have some issues going to the hospital. Because the first thing you do when you go to the hospital is they're going to say, do you have health insurance? Because they want to get paid. So get some med pay so you have some coverage. You can go to an urgent care. You can go somewhere and make sure that you get covered because one of the number one reasons that people declare bankruptcy in the United States is medical payments. That's one of the number one reasons. And so this is a small amount of money that you would pay each month as part of your premium for the car. That's going to really help you get some treatment no matter what. Okay. So, and like it says, here's a little tip. And I'm happy to give you these slides afterwards. So if anybody wants this emailed to you, no worries, you can have it. Nothing top secret here. So if you already have insurance, health insurance, MedPay may not be needed. Ask your provider. But for people who may not have insurance, this is like a backup mechanism to have some coverage if there's an emergency. Okay. Now, the big one that everyone always talks about, the next sort of category is bodily injury liability, called BI. What this does is it pays for injuries or deaths that you cause to others. Okay. And it covers a legal defense if you're sued. So what happens is, let's say that you cause an accident, you hurt somebody, not on purpose, obviously, and you get into a car accident, you make a mistake, and you get a lawyer sending you a letter. What happens is you make a claim to your insurance company, and then your insurance company, if there's a lawsuit, they will hire a lawyer on your behalf if you have this insurance. You're not paying out of pocket for that lawyer. The insurance company is paying out of pocket for the lawyer to defend you. That only applies if you have this, the bodily injury liability. So in California, it used to be $15,000, but they raised it in 2024 actually, to 2025 to 30,000. So let me explain this because this is kind of confusing, and you probably haven't heard this before. So, and we're going to go over something called the declarations page. I'll show you how to actually read it when you look at your own policy. If you're really having trouble sleeping tonight, you need some insomnia reading, this will help you go to sleep, but I'll teach you how to do it. So you see where on my arrow here, it says $30, 30,000 for one person, 60,000 per accident. So the way it works is when you look at what's your insurance policy, it'll say a number to the left and a number to the right with a little slash. Okay. So the number to the left is the maximum the insurance company will pay for one person for that accident. But if there's multiple people in an accident, the second number on the right-hand side, in this situation, 60,000, is the most they will pay for the accident in general. So if you have, let's say, for example, like you hurt someone and it's like a husband and wife that are in an accident, and like the husband has broken bones and the wife has like some minor injuries. The most that the husband can get for the broken bones is $30,000 under your insurance policy. And let's say that the wife's injuries are worth 15,000. So they can't get more than 60,000 total, and no one person can get more than 30,000, if that makes sense. So the minimum is 30,000 in California. I highly recommend more than 30. Get 50 if you can. Even 50 is a little bit better. I recommend 100K if you can swing it. Because if you hurt someone pretty bad, and it's if you only have 30,000 in coverage, you might be on the hook for more of that money if someone gets pretty injured pretty badly. But the real reason why I think it's important is for this next slide. And if you don't remember anything else from this presentation, remember this. This is the most important thing. If I could have a billboard somewhere in LA, maybe you'll see one soon from me, I would say, do you have uninsured motorist coverage? This is the most important thing. It's not required in California. In fact, most people say no to it because they want to save money. And then they actually make you sign something saying, I know that I'm giving up my rights. Okay. So this is like the most important thing. And um, this basically pays for your medical costs if you're hit by an uninsured or underinsured driver. It may also cover your family members and passengers. It's optional in California, but it's highly recommended. Now, here's why this is so important. So let's say, for example, so bodily injury covers you if you hurt someone else, but you want to cover yourself if you get hurt by someone else, right? So no one thinks about these things. They always think about, oh, I just want to protect myself in case someone else tries to sue me. Fine, good. But what about if somebody hits you and they don't have insurance? Did you know that it's like, I don't know the exact stat, but it's like 20 to 25% of people in LA don't have insurance at all. No auto insurance. So there's a pretty good chance if someone gets in an auto accident, and on average, people get into an auto accident every 7 years. If it is a serious injury, there's a good chance, like 1 in 5, that that person who hits you doesn't have any insurance. So if you don't have underinsured motorist coverage, you're out of luck. You get no money, zero, nothing. And it doesn't matter if it's like broken bones or it could be someone even passing away. I've had cases like that. You will get nothing. So it's so important. Uh, I really want all of you, if you're open to it, to check your declarations page, call your insurance agent, or if you do it online, and review your declarations page, and that'll tell you what insurance you have. And I'm going to teach you pretty soon how to read it. But the reason why this is so important is A, very few people are actually insured, or definitely a lot of them are uninsured in LA and surrounding areas. But also they're underinsured too. So let's say, for example, like someone gets in an accident, they hit you, and you've got, let's use the same example, you got broken bones. So pretty serious injury, right? That doesn't happen very often in an auto accident. So you got serious injuries, you get taken to the ER, and you've got medical bills that are like 20 grand or something. You hire someone like me or a personal injury lawyer. The lawyer, is going to ask you, do you have any underinsured motorist coverage? Let's say you don't have any, or let's say you have the minimum. Okay, you have 30,000 and you've got 20,000 in bills and you're seriously injured. If the other person has the minimum as well, 30,000, even if you have 30,000 in uninsured motorist coverage, you have zero coverage because you can't stack the two. Let me explain that. So again, the person injures you, they have 30,000 in bodily injury coverage to pay for when they hurt someone else, i.e. you. If you only have 30,000 uninsured motorist coverage, you can't add the two together to get 60. You get 30, that's it. That's why it's important to get 50,000 or even better, 100,000 in uninsured motorist coverage or underinsured, because let's just say you have 100,000 in damages, you're hurt pretty bad. Then what you can do under California law is, and this is a little tricky, you can get the 30,000 from the driver who hurt you because they have the minimum. Plus, you can get an additional 70,000 if the injury is warranted with the person who actually, under your own policy, for underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. Now, people always ask me, well, I don't want to make a claim against my own insurance. This other guy caused my accident. It's not my fault. I say, well, look, if you have fire insurance and your house gets burned down, aren't you going to like make a claim? Because you're paying for it. You're paying for the underinsured motorist coverage, the underinsured motorist coverage. So it's not going to raise your premium. People always ask me, is this going to raise my premium? I said, no, they cannot raise your premium because this is there's actually a law that says they can't. And so you got to have this. Another reason why this is so important. Let's say you are riding your bicycle, okay? You're trying to get some exercise. And you're riding down the street in Olive in Burbank, right? Beautiful. There's trees. You're having a great day. It's a Saturday. And someone hits you, right? You get injured, not too bad, but you're hurt and you got some medical bills. Well, the beautiful thing about uninsured motorist coverage is if the person who hits you has no insurance, you're not driving a car at all, but a car hits you. So you can actually use your underinsured motorist coverage to cover your loss, even though you're not driving. Most people don't know that. So I'll give you an example. I had a family friend and, she was younger and she went out to a bar. It was like 2 in the morning with her friend. They left the bar, and as they were walking away from the bar, these two women approached them, punched them, grabbed their wallet, their purse, and then jumped in the car. My friend tried to, grab the wallet or her purse, and the other person ran over her foot and broke her foot. For 4 months after the accident, she just was in pain, didn't make an insurance claim, didn't have an idea what her rights were. And then she just randomly talked to me one day and she said, hey, this thing happened. I don't want to bother you, but here's how the accident happened. I said, do you have uninsured motorist coverage? Because they couldn't find the individual, right? They left. The robbers left and fled the scene. So there's no insurance to go after. And so I told her, I said, look, make a police report and let's look at your insurance policy and see if you have uninsured motorist coverage. Because the other person, there's no insurance available. Guess what? I got her 50 grand just from talking to me because, and she didn't know her rights. And believe me, I can tell you this happens every single day in my office. People call me, they don't know their rights. And literally, that was the difference between like thousands of dollars for her. So, knowing your rights, we know this is important, but it's huge. So, if you do nothing else, please get even the minimum. Something is better than nothing, but don't deny this. Don't reject it. Try to have uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. You're going to have bodily injury coverage. You're trying to protect other people. But what about yourself? So you got to protect yourself. And insurance companies don't love this. They love it when you say no because they save money. So, and sometimes it's $5 a month or something extra just for this kind of coverage. So, highly recommend it. I suggest 100K if you can swing it. Now, another one that's not understood very well is collision coverage. This is optional, but if you have a lease, they're going to make you have it. So the lender's going to make you, if your car is financed or leased, you're going to have collision coverage. A lot of times people have their own car, they pay it off, and they're like, I don't need this. I'll save a few bucks. Um, Usually there's a deductible. It's usually 500 or 1,000. Most people do the $1,000 deductible just because they're trying to save some money. It depends on your circumstances, what you want. What's good about collision coverage is let's say you get hit by someone else and it takes like it's LAPD and it takes like 4 months to get a police report. We don't know who's at fault. Well, during that period of time, you can't make a claim against the other person's insurance company. They're going to pay for your car and you still need a car. Having collision coverage, your insurance company pays for your car no matter what. You don't have to wait for fault. So that's always super important to have it, no matter who's at fault. So I highly recommend having collision coverage because there's so many people who don't have insurance or you don't know who's at fault. Something else that's also optional, and a lot of people don't get this, but obviously in the fires recently, the Palisades fire and the Altadena fire, this came in very handy, right? Because a lot of cars burned down. Now, if you didn't have this coverage and your car had burned in one of these fires, you'd be out of luck. Okay. So the comprehensive coverage, it covers damage not caused by a collision. So theft, fire, vandalism, natural disasters, and it has a deductible just like the prior one that we talked about. It's optional, but my recommendation is for newer or valuable cars, strongly consider it. Okay. Um, so here's another one. I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly, but I'm going to try to do my best here. This is I covered it up from an actual client, and this is what's called a declarations page. So if you look to the left there's a couple of different sections. I'm going to show you how to read it. So the first one is called liability. I don't know if you see that, but basically it says limits of liability. They have multiple vehicles, but um, bodily injury, and this is an older one. This is from 2024, but anyways, so what you see here is it says bodily injury, 15,000 each person, and then to the right, 30,000. So what that means is it's 15,000 per person at most that they pay out if you hurt someone else in an accident. And then 30,000 total, right? That your insurance company pays out if someone else gets harmed. Now, you can see here medical payments, no coverage here. You see that? That's how you read that. I want you guys all to read your declarations page and see, do I have med pay? It'll say medical. Now, this one, it goes to physical damage. So you see comprehensive, they said no coverage. They said, no, I want to save the money. And car rental, no coverage. So, and then, they're just trying to save money on this. Um, and then uninsured motorist, you can see that they had the minimum as well. So they had 15,000 for bodily injury and 30,000, which means that if the person has no coverage at all, the maximum the person can get is 15,000 if they're hurt. This is a good example of what not to do. Don't do minimum, nothing. And I can tell Lisa's smiling because I think that she probably has this same thing right now. So this is don't do this. It's for if you just eliminate your coffees for a month, you can have way better insurance and sleep well at night knowing that you're covered. And believe me, there's a lot of auto accidents in LA, a lot. So it's going to happen to all of us at some point. You got to make sure that you and your family's protected. But that's how you read it. That's how you read those different sections. And again, I want you guys all to go and read yours. And so let me give you some real world examples. Okay, these are real cases. So I won't focus on this one on the left, but this one on these two on the right, this was a family who did it the right way. Okay. So they got into a major accident. There were five people in the family, and a guy made a U-turn in front of them, smacked them. It was a terrible accident. And the guy only had minimum insurance policy. He had 15 grand. And, the injuries ranged. There were some broken bones, but the mother actually had to have an immediate abdominal surgery. She almost died. So it was a serious injury. Luckily, they had something called uninsured um, motorist coverage, right? And they had 250,000. So it was 250,000 per person maximum and 500,000 total for the accident. So I got to work for them, and thankfully, because they had the right insurance, I was able to get them 500,000 as a family. Okay. So that's a good example of what to do right. Had they not done that, they just would have had all these medical bills to pay and they would have been in trouble, right? Maybe even declaring bankruptcy. So, um, my general tips to avoid surprises is to check your liability limits. Okay. Don't rely on the state minimum. Okay. Don't do it. Just go one level up if you can help it. And then ask your health insurance provider about med pay. Okay. And then think about your personal needs. What's your health like? What assets do you have? Right. If you own a house, for example, you should at least have 250,000 in bodily injury coverage. And I also recommend 250,000 in uninsured motorist coverage, and maybe even 1 million in umbrella coverage, which is a separate topic we didn't talk about. That's to cover you above and beyond your bodily injury limits. So I recommend that for people who have a home. Um, and the bottom line is paying a bit more now can save thousands of dollars later. I've seen it so many times. We pay $1,000 for an iPhone. People pay without thinking about it. They pay hundreds of dollars for like a video game to like add on stuff that I still don't get why people do that. But they spend all this money at the movies, Netflix, and you have 8 apps. But meanwhile, you don't want to spend a few bucks to get some reasonable insurance. So if I will feel like I have succeeded if just one person tonight or tomorrow looks at their declaration page. And I hope you guys never need someone like me. But if you do, now you know a little bit more. You know a little bit about insurance. You know what to look for. And I hope that this was helpful. And I'm very open to questions. I don't bite. So I hope that you guys are like all the most curious, inquisitive people with lots of questions that I've ever met. So any questions from the group?
Feel free to unmute yourselves. So we
I
just
must
have a
have to
Hey,
oh,
go
there we
Adrianos,
ahead.
go.
this is Eric. I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
How are you? It's good to hear from you.
Oh, hey, is this I can't see, is this an Eric I know?
Yes, I hope so. It's Eric Garcia.
Ah, okay, yes. I didn't say anything bad about insurance companies. I tried to refrain.
No, you're welcome to. I definitely am usually when I'm trying to give insurance consulting for people, I often say you need a lawyer. You need to talk to a lawyer because you're asking questions that I cannot answer.
Sure.
And I think one of my questions is what is and you've already touched some of it on it, but I think the bottom line would be what are some common things that people should make sure they understand when they're buying insurance? Because it's so different now than it was maybe 10, 20 years ago. And I think people assume too much. And, I blame insurance companies, I blame commercials, but
Hmm.
also I think people are just not well informed. This is why I'm glad you're doing something like this, because I think this does need to be bring up. And, there's no perfect world out there, at least here. And so I'm just curious, how do you respond when someone's just like, well, how much coverage should I get? And usually I tell them, well, talk to your lawyer, talk to your financial advisor, because it's really about protecting your net worth. How
Hmm.
do you usually answer that question?
Most people don't ask me because I'm like the zookeeper, kind of like coming in at the end and cleaning up the stall after
Right.
something bad's happened. So most people, to be honest, don't ask me that unless they, at the end of a case, this happens where someone had gotten into a car accident and I say, "Hey, I wish you had more insurance. You had uninsured motorist coverage." And then they get it. And then unfortunately, 4 years later or something, like a family member gets into a car accident. And then I say, "Oh, great, you got this insurance." So what I it's a pretty broad question, but generally what I say is first consider what your assets and your needs are. And because some people, look, if they have no assets and they're never going to have any assets, I can understand not having, a ton of like bodily injury coverage. But as you know, the only way to, so to have uninsured motorist coverage, they have to match bodily injury. I wish there was a way you can get a lot more uninsured motorist coverage, like 250, and get like a minimum on BI like that. I understand why insurance companies don't do that, but that would actually fit a lot of people's needs. But I look at their assets, their age, where they are in life, and then I would look at their overall budget and see what they can afford, and then I would consider strongly. And it's also dependent on where they live. Is there public transportation, things like that, as a backup? Um, but honestly, I think that people should get all of the insurance I suggested. I didn't even talk about rental coverage too. So I think rental coverage having 30 days minimum is useful for most people. But I generally look at the person, their age, their needs, their assets. Do they have a house, for example? So if they have a house, my rule of thumb is you should have 250 BI, 250 UIM minimum, and $1 million in umbrella. But those are kind of the general categories. And then I tailor to the individual person too, right? I kind of know their risk tolerance once, I get to know the person, especially in a attorney-client privilege relationship. And then I advise them that way. But if you have a lot of assets, then there's no reason you have to have insurance. Like you need to be well insured. Um, otherwise, you're going to be, putting your assets at risk.
Right. And there are higher limits too. I don't think people realize you can also get higher limits too. They're usually a combined single limit as they call it, which does also
Hmm.
cover uninsured, uninsured. But that's usually a higher tier, and that's usually individuals who have a higher net worth. But yeah, that's so what you said, I totally agree with, and that's what I was curious how you share that to your customers or your clients rather. So thank you.
Yeah, I also, there's different insurance companies too, and there's like
Right.
what I would say there are the minimum, like I'm not going to mention too many names, but like
Right.
there are lower tier insurance carriers that you should try to avoid. So
Right. Right.
like Kemper,
Right.
there's other ones like there's a lot of the more well-known names that I think that are uh, that are safer. And not to give you a plug, Eric, but Farmers is a good quality insurance.
Right. Right. Right.
And there's other ones that are good quality generally. And then there's the higher tier ones for high net worth people,
Right.
so that's probably not relevant here. But
Right.
um, I think my other rule of thumb for now, it may get better in the future, but I would not go with a company you've never heard of.
Right.
Like if it's like a Lemonade or if it's like
Right.
some one of these online only ones,
Right.
I would right now I wouldn't recommend it. I also would not recommend Tesla for insurance.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's more from the lawyer's perspective. They don't, in my opinion, handle claims very well. But I also wouldn't
Right.
recommend State Farm either, because if
Mm,
you want to get sued, get State Farm. Like your percentages of getting sued by a lawyer because they lowball so hard, it's
mm,
way higher. And it's not just me. Like I know lawyers all over the nation, and we all talk
right.
about this. So and these things change, but I would go with a high quality insurance company. If you really want to do research, look at their credit rating, look at
Right.
those kinds of things. Very few people are going to do that, except like a nerd like me. So, but that's another thing to consider if you're really worried about, because insurance companies go out of business.
Right.
So, the small ones, it's a little riskier.
Right.
So, I see another hand. So, Marva, um, and if anybody wants to come on screen, I'm totally fine with that. You don't have to, no pressure.
Sorry, I joined later, and so my question is assuming you haven't addressed this issue. But what happens, what coverage covers a tree falling on your car?
So yeah, I did talk about that. And let me see if I can find this slide quickly because it's going to be helpful for you. Let's see here. I'll find it in a second. Oh, wait, I skipped it already.
It's called comprehensive.
Yep. So can you see this, Marva?
Yes.
Okay, so I can send this to you later, but the comprehensive coverage is going to cover that. And yeah, tree is a good example, right? Eric is actually an insurance agent, and it happens more often than you think, right? When it's windy, we had some wind a year ago or something, and there's a bunch of cars. That's why you see all the city officials. Like today, I was driving, and I saw they were trimming the trees. And so it's optional, but if you can do it, try to have it because this is the weird stuff that happens in life. Vandalism, the fires is another good example where it would cover that. Um, so yeah, that's what the comprehensive covers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Amin, did I say that properly?
Adrianos, yeah, I'm in.
How you
Can you guys
doing?
hear me?
What can I do for
I'm
you?
doing well. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's very
Sure.
insightful. I have a two-part question for your collision coverage that you said was optional.
Hmm.
Um, what does it cover in terms of, does it cover property damage? Does it cover bodily injury? Does it cover everything, or just certain aspects of your policy? And number two, would dash cams be able to assist with expediting things? I know you said that, if it takes a long time to get the police report, or if there's a dispute on whether who's at fault. I've been party to a few car accidents where I feel like dash cam has saved me a lot of headache in terms of proving who's at fault. So I was wondering, what role would dash cams play in collision coverage?
So I'll answer the great question. I mean, so I'll answer the second part of your question first. So absolutely yes, dash cams do help. Very few people have it. I would guess fewer than 1%. Actually a lot of motorcyclists have the GoPros. So, but I highly recommend the dash cam if you can afford it. It's not too expensive these days and and I would recommend the one in the front and the back. Okay, so if you can do it, this is a little bit more anal, but if you can get the front and the back, it's going to really help the insurance company determine who did what and what actually happened in the accident. Because here's the thing, people lie, video doesn't. So video is always powerful. And in terms of the first part of your question, the collision coverage only covers the car. It doesn't, I could be wrong about that. It may cover some other incidental things, but it does not cover bodily injury, just the car, just the vehicle. And anytime Eric can correct me, because those are more details he deals with than I do. because I'm more usually focused on the person who's injured, right? The bodily injury, than the details around the specific, collision coverage. But yeah,
Right.
it covers the car. All right. Any other questions? Anything else?
I know that we had another person on here, Javriela Ramos. She was asking if her uninsured says 30,000 per person on the declarations and 60,000 for occurrences. Does that mean that she has liability?
No, that's
No.
two different things.
Okay.
So likely, well, she has to have liability, right? So she has
Hmm.
underinsured for 30/60. That means she also is going to have liability of 30/60 as well. But the uninsured specifically deals with if the person who caused injury to her either doesn't have any insurance or doesn't have enough insurance to cover the loss. That's what that refers to. The liability is the amount your insurance company has to pay someone else for the damages that you caused to them. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's confusing. It's the way it is.
All right. And then Raquel was asking, do I need a loan or at least payoff coverage if I have gap from my dealership?
That's a good question. Actually, I'm gonna defer that one to Eric and see what he says about that. Because
Yeah, it's a good question. You don't need it, but we do recommend it. It usually costs $5 or $10, but sometimes your finance auto insurance or your finance dealership will offer it as well.
Mhm.
So that's usually where people buy it. But if they don't, the insurance companies will cover that gap, and it's usually inexpensive. So if your car is loaned, I'm sorry, if your car is on a loan, yeah, you should buy it because that way, if you're in an accident, and these days, even a minor accident, a car can be considered a total loss and you have to pay out. The gap insurance can cover that if you don't want to pay out of pocket to pay out that loan.
Yeah, I recommend it. I know I'm saying get everything, but
Right.
honestly,
Yeah.
these things do happen quite often. And like I said, most people will have an accident every 7 years or so. So it's
Mhm.
bound to happen. So
Mm.
it's good to get the coverage that you can, reasonably afford. All
Thank you
right.
guys so
Any other
much.
questions?
I actually had one more question. So if you were to get, for example, let's say we want to get majority of these items, would that be considered full coverage and you're covering all of your bases?
I'm going to say this just one time. Full coverage is not a thing. It doesn't
Okay.
exist.
Exactly.
It's it's one of those things. I don't know where it came
Where did
from
it
the
come from?
swamps or depths
The
somewhere,
lender.
but
Yep.
yeah, there's no such thing as full coverage.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of clients tell me they get into an accident. I say, what kind of insurance do you have? "Oh, I got full coverage." I'm like, okay, interesting. I sort of ignore it because it means nothing. It has no meaning under law. It has no meaning under insurance.
Okay.
So it doesn't exist. So what we got to do is we got to look at what insurance people actually have. So I look at their declarations page and their policy too, if you want to get fancy. But just that one page that I showed you guys will show you what insurance you have.
I was looking at that because my husband, he ended up having to get full coverage because he just got his car off the lot a few months back. So they wanted us to get full coverage. And I'm looking that there's like areas that says no coverage. And I'm like, I thought it was supposed to be full coverage.
Well, are you looking at your declarations page now?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I see like for whatever vehicle number 3, it shows medical no coverage.
Yep. So you have no med pay.
Uh, car rental expense no coverage. Uninsured motorist, uninsured deductible waiver included, and then uninsured collision no coverage. But uninsured motorist, yeah, it's on there for bodily injury.
So here's what they're doing. They want to make sure
Yeah.
they cover the car because that's their
Mhm.
car.
Oh, okay.
So you probably have, if I had to guess, $100,000 in yeah, $100,000 in BI. So if I had to guess,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's uh they're mainly concerned with protecting their car. So
Got it.
that's why they want the insurance there. But yeah, I would not say you have full coverage. Even if that existed, that doesn't sound like full coverage to me. It seems like very
Well, I
not
mean,
full coverage,
yeah.
if that term existed.
Okay.
But I'm
I
happy to
think
look at it offline for you and make
absolutely.
suggestions, or you can even
Yeah,
talk to Eric too, because he's actually an agent and he might be able
cool.
to, I didn't plan this with Eric. I didn't know he was coming on,
Right.
but
No, I like Adrianos, and
yeah,
I
he's
wanted to,
trusted. So
I appreciate that. Can I just intervene with something?
yeah,
I think people need to understand that when you buy an insurance policy from an agent, that agent is responsible to explain that to you. They're supposed to
Right.
explain that coverage to you because you're buying a contract and and if you don't understand it, you're supposed to ask the agent. And if you still don't understand it, then talk to your lawyer.
All right.
yeah.
That's really what you're supposed to do. And if you still don't understand it, then you don't know what you bought, and that's dangerous.
Okay, got it. Thank you for that tip. Um, just right before we log off, we do have another question on there.
Yep.
Is my 20-year-old liable for accidents if she's driving a car her dad is letting her borrow, but she's not under the insurance?
So that's a permissive user insurance situation. So the way the law works is that the owner is responsible for up to $15,000 of the damage. So the way it works is the insurance goes with the vehicle, not the person. That's the
Mhm.
way to think about it. So if it's her dad's car and she's driving her dad's car with permission, assuming she didn't just take it for a joyride, right? Then the father is going to be the father will be responsible for up to $15,000, but not beyond that. So the insurance company only has a duty to pay up to 15,000. Now I have to check my math because it may have changed now to 30,000. I have to check that law. It probably changed to 30,000 now. Yeah, it'll be 30,000. So that's the maximum that the insurance company would have to pay out on behalf of the owner. So
Okay.
there are lots of situations like that get complicated. But yeah,
Right. And then the last
next
question.
question. Yep.
Yeah, the next one, I guess Leslie was just, kind of in shock as well about the full coverage not being really full coverage. So she's
Yep.
inquiring if it
You
also
don't believe
goes.
me? Ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you the same thing most likely. So go
But she's
ahead.
basically asking if it's even so for leasing a car. Like even when you're leasing a car, really? Wow.
They're going to make you get more insurance than you probably would do on your own
Because yeah.
because they want you to protect the car,
Hmm.
right? Because if you damage the car, you're like, hey, here's the car back. They want to make sure that car's covered. So
Yeah.
they probably get more insurance, than you would normally get, at least for the car itself, for the bodily injury coverage. But yeah, full coverage does not exist. It's not a term that actually exists. And I've talked to so many insurance agents, and it's actually kind of annoying for them because the people call and say, hey, I have full coverage. What's going on? And it's like, no, you don't. Like, you don't have rental car coverage. Like, you have no med pay. You don't have underinsured motorist coverage. You have no collision coverage. You have nothing. You basically have minimum for if you hurt someone else. So yeah, insurance is complicated. It needs to be, unfortunately, because life is complicated. But if you have a good agent, they should, which is why I say don't do this online, so you can actually talk to a human being. They'll sit and explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old, which is what you need,
Yeah.
right? And they'll do it nicely, but they'll explain it to you like a 5-year-old so that you know what you are getting, right? It's like going to a doctor and your doctor explains to you a procedure that you need. You don't know, you didn't study this. I studied, I've handled 1,000 accidents myself personally over almost 20 years. So I've seen this lots of times. But if you haven't had my experience, you're not going to know.
Hmm.
So it's just the way it is. And I actually didn't know a lot of this stuff too because I've been driving for 10 years before I became a lawyer. So, these things are good to educate yourselves. This is why we do these kind of things to give people some help so that now you can change your insurance, make decisions about what you need. And like I said, if you have to cut out on some apps that you have so you can get some real insurance, I highly suggest it. Some of my friends have like eight apps. I'm like, how do you have the time, to watch all this stuff? So highly
Yeah.
recommend it. Take a look at it. And honestly, this could really be life-changing just making this one decision. Because like I
Hmm.
said, medical payments, things like that can bankrupt people.
Mhm.
So having the right coverage, won't prevent you from being hurt in an accident, but it'll at least soften the blow so that you have the right amount of, especially please, the uninsured motorist, please do that, because I can't tell you. I'll give you one more story. I'll leave you with this. I have a client recently, I'm handling her case right now, where it's local. She got in an accident. I think it was Glendale, and really bad accident. A Tesla, you would think have a lot of insurance, but they don't. Expensive Tesla makes a left turn in front of her, hits her, serious accident, so bad, like she has like two black eyes from like the airbag. So it's a pretty hard hit. And other injuries, pretty serious hit. And she had like multiple cars. So sometimes people like on an older car, they're like, oh, it's already paid off, so I'm not going to worry about putting too much insurance on it. I only drive it occasionally. And then unfortunately, the guy who hit her has a Tesla, but he has 30,000 in coverage. Nothing for this kind of injury. And what does she have for underinsured motorist coverage? 30,000, the minimum. So she's trying to save a few bucks. And then now the maximum she can get for this accident is 30,000 when her case is probably worth like $200,000. So honestly, get the right insurance. It's going to really help you in the end. And honestly, if any of you want to have me look at your insurance, I can spend 5-10 minutes looking at it, give you suggestions on what you should get for your needs. But I think, what I share with you tonight should be enough information to get you started and talk to an insurance professional. And hopefully you guys will never need someone like me.
Thank you so much, Adrianos. This was very, very informative. We really appreciate you taking the time as well to share this information with us. I know a lot of us here could definitely use it. I know I'm probably going to be emailing you soon.
You have my
But
cell phone. You can text me.
all right. So then just wanted to say to let you guys know, if you guys would like to receive the slides, Adrianos, is it easier for you to send it to me, or do you want to share your information?
I
Or
can
I
just send it
can,
to you, and you can just
not a
like
problem.
distribute, because I don't know if everybody will want it. So,
Okay.
but I can send it to you, and then, um, and be careful about Googling stuff online. That's my last thing I'll say. It's not always accurate. So,
Mhm.
just be careful with that.
Yeah. So I'm including my email address. If anybody is interested in receiving the slides, go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll go ahead and get that over to you guys. And also this session is being recorded, so we will also be uploading this onto our YouTube page and also sharing it through our Lifting People Up newsletter that we have. So I'll leave that up there for a few minutes, but that's basically it. So thank you everybody for joining us today. I appreciate you, Adrianos, and thank you, Eric, for chiming in and sharing your knowledge as well. We really do appreciate you. Hopefully we can connect.
Totally. This was really good. More people need to
Yeah.
listen.
All
Yeah.
right. All righty. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Bye.